I'm going to show you how to set up tiled PDFs from a drawing in Inkscape. So the first thing you need to do, I've got most of it set up here, I'll just show you what I did. First you have to decide what border size you want on your page. Mine is set to 7 inches wide by 10 inches tall. If you're going to have if you're just going to print it for yourself, you can make it whatever size will print on your printer. If you're going to distribute this to people who might be printing on either A4 or letter size paper, I would go with a maximum width of 7.25 inches and a maximum height of 10 inches, just to make sure everybody's printer will print the whole border without problems. So I made that a rectangle and I copied it into rows and snapped them together with object snap so the corners are exactly in the same spot. And there's not really any standard for making PDFs. Every indie pattern designer does things differently. But I saw this method of doing the page numbers recently, and I thought it was the best method I've seen yet. And that is to put a gray, this is a 20% gray page number in the top left of the page. So that way, if it was in the middle, then you might have trouble figuring out if it's a 6 or a 9 if your page gets turned around. So the top left, you don't have to underline your numbers or anything to be able to tell a 6 from a 9. And if you put your page number outside the border, then once you trim off the borders, you lose your page number. So this is a really good way of doing it, and I wish everybody would do it this way. Now, with your page numbers labeled like this, you can even skip labeling your alignment marks and then just have like a key on another page that shows what order, just a miniature version of your pattern layout like this, so to show which order you tape the pages together in. And another thing I suggest doing is, I haven't seen anybody do this yet, but I really wish they would, is to put a print test scale square on both the first page and the last page, because usually when you print, the last page is what comes out first. So wouldn't it be nice to be able to test your print square without having it be on the last page that you print? But you also want it on the first page because when you open up the PDF, it's the first thing you see and it might remind somebody to check their print scale. Okay, so I have my grid and my alignment marks and my page numbers all grouped together. This is one group. So when I move it, it all moves together. Okay, each of these print scale test squares is a group, and each of my patterns is a group. So I can move them around. I'm going to line them up on my grid. And you want to try to make sure you don't have like one little piece of the pattern sticking over onto the next page if you can avoid it. That way, if somebody has to reprint just that piece, they don't have to print a whole other page just for one little corner. So let's put my print test scales. Oops. Okay. Now you notice that my page numbers are showing up on top of the pattern. We don't want that. We want all the page numbers to be behind the pattern. So if I go up to Object, so I've remember this is all, my page numbers are all grouped together with the grid. So I select any part of that. And then Object, if I select lower to bottom, then you can see that my page numbers go behind the pattern. So if you have text or pattern, it shows through that light gray page number. Okay, So once I have everything arranged, I'm going to draw a window around everything here and group it together. Object, group. So now this all moves as one piece. And we have to decide where we want our border to show up on the page. I usually like to just center it. So if we go to Object, Align and Distribute, I have my page border here selected. If I want it centered on the page, I just select Relative to Page and center on vertical axis, center on horizontal axis, and now my border is centered on the page. Let's say I didn't want it centered. What if I want like a wider border on the left to allow some room for stapling or hole punching or something? I'll show you how to do that. We could align on right sides. So I'm lining my rectangle relative to the right side of the page. And then I can move it a ½ inch to the left. So I'll go to Object, Transform, and move -0.5 inches to the left. Okay, in order to mask off all of the pattern that goes past the border, we need to make a white object with a hole in the center. So I'm just going to select Create a Rectangle, and I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger than the size of my paper. And just so we can see it for now, I'm going to set the fill color to pink. And we want our stroke to be 0.5 pixels. It's good to keep it thin so that you can cut and tape together the pieces accurately. If your line is too thick, it's hard to do that accurately. So now I have, here, let's send this to the back just so we can see that there's that rectangle behind it. So there's the border that we drew earlier, and here's the filled rectangle that I just drew. So I'm going to select them both and then go to Object, go to Path, Difference, that cuts out a hole the size of the page border, and the page border is gone now. It's now part of this object. So just verify that our stroke is still black and 0.5. Our stroke width is 0.5. So now I'm going to move my pattern, which is now all grouped together. I'm going to move it over here. Now this is the part that gets tricky because the object snaps can sometimes be kind of buggy in Inkscape, especially in this situation for some reason. So I'm just going to turn on a bunch of object snaps and cross my fingers and hope that this corner will snap to that corner. Yay! So it's snapping the corner to the cusp node, which is what I want. It's working today. So now that that's snapped, I'm going to turn off my object snap. And I want this border to be on top. So I'm going to go to Object, Raise to Top. Okay, so now it's on top of my pattern. But we are ready to set that to white. So I'm going to right click on white and set fill. So now I'm going to hit escape to deselect that. I'm going to select well, it doesn't matter what I select for the moment. Okay, I'm ready to make my first PDF. So let's go to File, Save a Copy, and we want to change the type to portable document format, PDF, and then type in for the name, select the page number, and these defaults are okay. Use documents, page size, etc. So let's take a look at that PDF. Isn't that pretty? Nice, everything worked out perfectly. Okay. So let's go back to Inkscape and do the rest of them. So now because that object snapping is often kind of buggy in this situation, I mean, we could move it over here and snap to that next corner, but because I have so many problems with that, I just move it instead. So make sure that your border is not selected. Make sure you're only having your pattern and your grid selected here. It's all grouped together as one object. So now we're going to move it to the left. Remember, left is negative. So I know the width of my border is 7 inches. So I have inches selected here. And I put -7 to move it to the left 7 inches. So apply. So now I'm ready to make my next PDF. File, save a copy, PDF format, type the page number 02. Okay, and then do the next one. So I already had 7 there, so I already had my pattern selected, so I just had to hit apply again. So file, save a copy, PDF, page 3. And pattern's still selected, so I just hit apply again, and it moves it over to the next one. File, save a copy, PDF, page 4. Okay, now I need to go to the next row. So to get to page 5, I need to go over 7 times 1, 2, 3. I need to move my pattern to the right 21 inches. And I need to move it up 10 inches because the height of my border is 10 inches. So 10 inches. And that should take me to sheet 5. And here, let's undo that, just so I could show you it. If you didn't want to calculate that, you could go, instead of going 21 and 10 inches, you could just go backwards. You know, we did -7 to get here, so we could just go 7, 7, 7 to get back to page 1, and then vertically up 10. So you could do it that way too if you prefer. So I'm going to export page 5, and then we would go back to moving -7, vertical 0, and then we'd save a copy on page 6, page 7, page 8, and go 21, 10 again to get to page 9, etc. until you have all your pages saved. And that's it for the Inkscape part of things. And then you have a bunch of PDFs that you'll probably want to group together as one PDF. I use PDF Split and Merge Basic to merge together all the separate PDFs that were created from Inkscape. So you just select all of them, and if you want to pick a new file name, you can do that there. Run. And then you get one PDF that has all of your pages together in it. And there you go.